This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSPORT Fan Network.
TalkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Robertson, the first time we've seen them attack them, and there's Francis! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robertson do! Robertson getting his shot in, and a goal! Robertson!
Hello, welcome back to Red Side of Trent, here to preview the Europa League game against our friends Malmo, taking on our European friends from 1979 and actually 1995. Two of our coaching staff were the last to play Malmo in that day, in Steve Stone and Ian Wone. I'm delighted to be joined by the podcast Malmo Uda and Josip. Josip, how are you, first of all?
First of all, thank you very much. I'm doing very fine. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the invitation regarding this big game coming up.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. Ourselves, obviously, your English is way better than my Swedish. The only Swedish I know is anything from IKEA, and even then, that's yeah, mind blow. But no, thank you very much for joining us. Just to really get into things to start with, I wanted to ask about your podcast logo with the bird eating the rat. I think it's an eagle eating a rat, I think. But what on earth is that? If people haven't seen, we'll put the description for your podcast in below and stuff for people to look at.
Of course, anytime. It's Malmö is a very specific town in sense that we don't want to be like the other Swedish towns. We also have like a chant or a song on the stands that we want to be apart from Sweden or divided from Sweden actively, because we have this kind of local or regional patriotism towards our region. And also that one thing, or maybe some kind of lore or meme or whatever in the Swedish context, is that everything that's weird or considered weird within the country is actually normal in Malmö. So regarding this logo, it's like a seagull eating a rat in the middle of a square in town. People just waiting for the bus. And we had a rat problem in Malmö many years ago. So not just the number of rats, but they were kind of huge and running around in public. This eagle, which is also considered, let's say, not very friendly animal within the city environment, was eating this rat alive. And
oh my goodness!
With the phone, and then we also have in the logo. It's like it was in the 90s or late 90s, beginning of the 2000s. There was a trend especially among young boys, to have like a hat or with flames or like fire flames and stuff like that. Very late 90s, beginning 2000s. And this was also considered to only be worn by people with severe or half severe diagnosis with, let's say, old school ADHD.
Okay.
So everything between that. So like a lot of internal jokes within Malmö and within our community, but also in a general sense, like Swedish meme culture and kind of, this seagull took it too far with eating the rat live. And also like a, let's say, indication or a blink towards AIK, which is like the nickname are the ferrets or the rats. So it's some kind of internal joke there as well. So that's the backstory to the logo.
I mean, it's an amazing logo. It's not, I mean, ours is a bit more plain, I guess, and that's just, it is what it is. I mean, I'm surprised I've not seen some sort of pigeon or rat get eaten in Nottingham, to be honest, because that's just the type of place it could be potentially. It's got its own quirks. But for those that don't know much about Malmo, obviously, apart from the 1979 European Cup final and that meeting in the UEFA, the old school UEFA Cup in the 90s, what can you tell us about your football club? Because I know that your season's finished. Actually, a lot of people won't know that that your domestic season's finished. So, also, how have you been dealing? How do you deal with that in the off season when you're in European competitions as well?
Regarding the history, we are considered a Swedish, or there's a fact that we are the historically most successful Swedish club, both in terms of league titles and in cup titles. It's been during the 50s and in mid 70s also, but we had like long runs during our period. The club was founded in February 1910, and to have won until that, basically the big ruler of Swedish football in terms of history. We have had, to make an indication, I think we have had like 4 or 5, let's say, head of the board people, or related like 5 chairmen during our history in the club. So they would be running the club for like 10, 15, maybe 20 years. And then we had one of our most famous chairmen was Erik Persson, who also contributed in the civilian society during the Second World War. And he was a very active, let's say, both in the national team in Malmö and trying to bring some professionalism in that sense into Malmö and making it a symbol of Scanian and regional, and also in Swedish terms of footballing powerhouse, which was built during his time. And then after he resigned, we brought in a whole other different person from the, let's say, the business part. He was a strong capitalist. His name is, or was, Hans Cavalli Björkman. He passed away a couple of years ago. And Erik Persson specifically chose him to bring Malmö into a more modern way of thinking and try to evolve and develop the club into a more modern society where money was growing and money was more of a big thing within football. So in history-wise, the club has been self-developing outside of the football, and also within or stuff going on the pitch. Let's say 79 as our biggest achievement in Europe, also coming to European Cup final with basically only players from Malmö or from the region as well. And given that into the modern context now that we have, things have changed. We also we have kept our tradition of having a strong academy, of attracting the best both regional and national players to our academy, bringing in top tier players from the league, sending out players like Pontus Jansson, what he did in Premier League, of course, Robin Olsen, what he did in some parts, not that much now. And also some other players, Filip Helander has had a good career also abroad. Marcus Rosenberg, what he did when he came home, and so on. So this combined with mentality and strength of talented players from other parts of Sweden and also Europe coming in and bringing the winning mentality into the team and trying to develop the already current, or actually pretty developed winning mentality that was established over many years. Transferring that to the season that we have now, which has been, let's say, a hell of a roller coaster. I imagine that you also have had your things going on with Marinakis and the owning team and Ange Postecoglou and the coaches and stuff like that, which is, I think, in Premier League cases very extreme, because I'm from Southern Europe myself, so I pretty much understand the schemes and the settings of these kinds of, let's say, very operative owners that want to bring in stuff into the club. But in our sense, we had a coach. We came from a 2024 season with, I think we won with 11 points ahead of the second place team. We swept through the league. We had our players were both collectively and individually prized for let's say all the, like, best goal scorer, best and you know whatever category you want. And we were expecting some kind of development in this season with the same coach that we had and some players coming in. Of course, we lost two of our key players, or 3 in that sense. Sebastian Nanasi, who now plays in Strasbourg. Derek Cornelius, who went to Marseille, didn't get a lot of playing time, now plays in Rangers. And Sergio Peña, who went to PAOK and now is loaned out to his boyhood club in Peru. So these 3 players were like the key players in sense of individual quality. We lost them. We brought in some new players, which we expected to perform better or at least show more quality. And then we had the same coach, the same coaching staff. Everything was getting good. We actually expected Robin Olsen to come home during this season as well. He came in the summer. But from that point, let's say after the first 2 league games in April, everything went downhill. So we started rotating, like, let's say, substitutions from one game to another. The players were joking internally that they didn't even know who was going to start or who is going to be in the stands for the next game. And I got a lot of criticism in May this season for being one of the few people that actually said, like, this guy needs to go because something is off, but both in the team and outside of the team, just purely looking at it. I mean, there were so many things going on with Henrik Rydström was actually connected to both Brighton and Hamburg last season in terms of what he did with our team. And he tried to, I don't know if he really tried to reinvent himself, but he got into this kind of, let's say, very light Pep Guardiola type of self-destruction in terms of overthinking everything. And then we had like a members meeting last week, and our sporting director, Daniel Andersson, club legend, showed us that we didn't have a consecutive starting 11 for one single game in Allsvenskan during this season, which says pretty much everything.
It's not good. I mean, your
It's
coach
not
wasn't
good at all.
your coach wasn't scratching his head like Pep Guardiola was last season.
No, at least they had the same haircut, so that was basically the same, the only similarity in that sense. But given that and the things that developed during the year, and all, let's say, a semi-successful campaign in Europe, we actually got into Europa League, which is, in my opinion, the true, or the, let's say, the most meaningful tournament that we can be in, because Champions League is a totally different world. We've been into the tournament for 3 times and got beaten and trashed basically every time, apart from, playing like, let's say, Olympiacos at home or Shakhtar Donetsk before the war and stuff like that. So we got some results, but the quality now in terms of when we were there, like in 2013, 2014, and 2021. So it was, the sport has developed into something else. And then we got into the Q3 in Champions League, played FC Copenhagen, which we don't have very friendly relationships with, given the fact of the geographical distance between us, and also in terms of what club we are and what club they are. Lost 5-0 in the second game away in Copenhagen, and then things just were like, okay, now we don't even know what to do anymore. So we got into the Europa League, started, let's say, we wanted to bring in some kind of experience from last year, which is one of the questions that you sent me before also, that we had, let's say, our experience from last year was that we were not so much affected of the intense schedule, in terms of playing three games in a week, but we were affected by the big difference in terms of quality, speed, tactics, preparedness, let's say, the level of the opposing teams that we were playing. We were not, let's say, that bad in some senses, but we were terribly punished in every single game based on individual lack of quality. So we had one game, I was actually there in Budapest against Ferencváros. Started very good. First 15 minutes was beautiful, and then in the beginning of the second half, it's 4-1 to Ferencváros. Basically, of 4 ball losses, counterattacks, and then we're gone. So we tried to learn from that, given in this schedule that we have now, or the draw that we had, which was given when the draw, or let's say when the draw was made, we were actually pretty. It was pretty decent, because we had okay, now we have these games. We play Dinamo Zagreb at home. We play Panathinaikos at home. They are not on the top level that they were used to be in that sense, but we are also in some kind of a predicament. But we at least expected some results, but we were also not in that sense punished, but we saw, or we have, from our experiences in this season, we have experienced everything that you could not even imagine was possible. We had a game, let's say, the most typical, the Murphy's Law type of game that we had against Victoria Pilsen in the Czech Republic. We lost the captain, Anders Christiansen. We lost Pontus Jansson, also co-captain or captain. Christiansen playing at number 10, being one of the most important players. Pontus Jansson, of course, center back with all his experience, 2 red cards and a penalty in one single game. So after that, it was okay, let's throw everything around and see what happens. And then we played Dinamo at home. Excellent performance. I was surprised by the moral, the individual quality, and the fighting spirit that the team shown, which hasn't been shown during this season in basically any other game except for that one. Conceded a goal in the 95th minute at home. 3 points turned into 1 point. And then, getting ready for Nottingham away, for Porto away, and, that kind of stuff coming up. And also, we were talking about, okay, Postecoglou, maybe he stays. Marinakis is what he is. And then now we see you winning against Liverpool 3-0 at Anfield, and people were like, okay, everything under 5-0 is decent. We're satisfied with that. So
I
that's
wouldn't,
pretty much the expectations we have.
I wouldn't expect us to score 5 goals. It's funny because Forest fans are very much aware that it's not going to be as easy a game as maybe Malmo fans might think it could be for Forest or for us anyway, because we got punished so badly by Midtjylland, but that was under Ange Postecoglou, who no Forest fan wanted at the time anyway. And just going back to your point about consistency, his big problem was that he couldn't find a team to pick or a formation to pick. And since Sean Dyche has come in, he's picked a consistent formation and a system and players that suit that system. And now we're reaping the rewards. We've only lost one game in 6 or 7 games now with Sean Dyche at the helm. So, and as you said, went and got a fantastic result at the weekend, beating Liverpool, reigning champions, who spent £500 million this season, 3-0 like it was nothing, and that was fantastic to see. But I just wanted to ask, obviously, because your domestic season's finished, Josip. How does the club deal with that? Do you then do you get friendlies in before? What's happening? Because obviously you can only do so much with friendlies as well. It's not like a competitive game. So do you ever see like the drop off in performance or fitness or anything when that happens?
Yeah, I think it's also interesting that we all basically these 4 games, or like let's say the Europa League consists of 8 games. So 4 games we had during the, let's say, regular season, and now the 4 games we had after the season has been finished. So I think in terms of getting the players to do something else, to cleanse their mind, to get some time off, we have some young players also participating in the international teams. Or for the national teams as well. So in terms of that, getting a clean slate, getting something different in terms of getting your head in the right place before these type of games, but also trying to get into the situation or the opponent themselves. In this case, I mean, I don't think, of course, the players will say that they expect a good result and we will do everything what we can and so on. But I think in this type or in this part of the season, and given everything that has happened, we have our current interim coach being connected to Middlesbrough even today as a part of their future coaching staff with Kim Hellberg, which is like, yeah, I'm about to finish these 2 games and then I'm leaving as well. So in that sense, it's also like all up to the players to bring in some morale or at least some dignity for the fans, for the badge, for everything that has happened this season, and both on and off the pitch, because we have a new executive director coming in. We have changes in the board. We have a discussion regarding the sporting director. Our former executive is leaving after 12 years for a role in the FA. So it's so much going on. There's so much frustration among the fans. But I also said, or when I spoke to some of the players, of course, on and off the record, also, they were like, just try to bring in some kind of dignity into this. I mean, we as a fan base in Swedish context, we always expect our team to win. We don't expect like 5-0 in every game, but at least a good performance and a win. That's pretty much it. But in this European context, and after everything we have gone through, especially with the Copenhagen game and some of the games in Europa League, we were like, okay, just go out there, do whatever you can, keep your dignity, and we don't expect you to rob Nottingham of anything in that sense, even if you have had your problems yourself. But also, I mean, Pontus Jansson bringing in that mentality that he can do. Robin Olsen has actually, to be frank, he's been terrible since his arrival. We conceded 30 goals since he came home, which is absolutely horrible. And we had some goalkeeping issues as well. Our central midfield consists of players between 19 and 23. With the most experienced player being ruled out for disciplinary reasons after throwing the coach under the bus after the game against Copenhagen. He was like, the question was to Lasse Berg Jonsen, he's a Norwegian national team player also. Both the best player last year, now he has been absolutely horrendous, also injured, of course, but he was asked by the reporters after the game, do you feel confident that Henrik Rydström is the right man for the job? And he was like, yeah, I prefer not to say anything. So that's pretty much it. And then he was injured, and then he got some like substitutions. He started a game against Pilsen, got a red card, and after that he was like mentally gone.
Right.
for the rest
Okay.
of the season. And we have like Erik Botheim coming back in the squad for this game. He has been out since I think it was May for a broken ankle. Anders Christiansen also getting older and getting more and more like small injuries keeping him away. He's also getting back in the squad, but also at the same time we have lost Taha Ali for injury reasons. We have some other players on the injury list as well, and we are currently our full focus is or the only option we have in attack is a 19-year-old called Daniel Gudjonsson. So
Well, you just
that's pretty
never
much
know.
what we have.
You just never know if they ever step up. So I know you spoke about a lot of players there, and a lot of players who will probably be unrecognizable to most football fans,
Mm,
unfortunately, because they just don't. If they don't follow Swedish football, I don't know. I actually know more about Norwegian football mainly because of Football Manager and my last
mm,
save with Tromsø, because I went there, so I decided to be
mm,
them. So I know more about Norwegian footballers, not Swedish, apart from
mm,
Zlatan, Isak, and Alanga, and a couple of others who have
mm,
graced the Premier League. Obviously, I know you spoke about Pontus Jansson. So
mm,
key players there, Josip.
mm.
Are we saying Jansson to an extent on his own, or has he got any company to try and help him
Yeah,
with
I
this
think I would
game?
put. Yeah, he has some company, but in terms of quality, they will have to step up, and that's me speaking as a fan. But Pontus Jansson, of course, Robin Olsen in some sense. Uh, as I said before, not very many good performances, but we need him in this sense, or we will at least need to see some quality that he brought to the national team, where he has been outstanding until this point when he left. These type of performances, we have some kind of, let's say, senior players in that sense. Jens Stryger Larsen, former national team, then Danish national team player, played in Trabzonspor, Udinese, and some other quality leagues as well. We have a Brazilian left back, Gabriel Busanello, very strong offensively, very weak defensively because he doesn't want to run back. And the youngsters, of course, in the central midfield. But I would say, in some sense, of course, Pontus Jansson, Robin Olsen, and Jens Stryger Larsen, like the senior
Fair,
players of this team. And
fair.
some kind of, let's say, if you want to expect some kind of surprise or a player to watch out for, there would be two in this sense. I would say Otto Rosengren, uh, like semi-tall guy. He's like 185, 186, central midfielder. Very good view on the pitch. He tends to get into some discussions with opponents and the referees as well. But he is a very, very physical player and was actually the best player last year, where we were even worse in the Europa League in terms of collective efforts. But he was the outstanding player in that sense. So he will always bring like 90 minutes of power and willingness. And also on the central midfield, given now that Lasse Berg is out, Adrian Skogmar, a former right back turned central midfield, and he's very irrational. Let's say sleazy in that sense. He's hard to read. He has a very, like, let's say, low point of weight, so he's like running like a handball player or a basketball player. So
Right.
he's like quick in turns. He's very disrespectful in that sense, that he doesn't care who the opponent is or the physicality. He tries to create something out of nothing. He tries to push the ball forward and to put his teammates in good situations. So that will be the two players on the central midfield. And maybe if he gets playing time in this sense, because we don't have anything to lose, Kenan Busulagic, also a central midfielder. We call him Kevin De Bruyne of Malmo FF. In one sense, that be also because his head is like turning 360 degrees every time even before he gets the ball and when he gets the ball. So in terms of his age, he's like 18, but he has great scanning, great visuals, and also has proven to keep some kind of level, and has actually gotten minutes in the Europa League this season as well. So that would be one name to look out for.
Fair. That's quite a good overall analysis. I'm sure we'll be looking out for them players on Thursday night. I mean, I
Mm,
definitely will be. You just never know who you might find. You might find a Lucas Bergvall just hidden
mhm.
in the tall grass of Malmo. You just never know.
Exactly.
How are you expecting to approach the game? Do you expect to keep 11 men behind the ball? Do you expect and play on the counter attack? How do you see it going?
I think we will have some kind of similar game plan to the other away games that we've had this season, and not necessarily like, let's say, push the team back or have an 11 players a la Sean Dyche in Burnley in the defensive box, but we will at least try to keep some distance, try to play the ball when we can. Of course, the speed or the tempo will be, let's say, a fair fair point to discuss. I mean, we have to make decisions faster, make the ball go faster, and so on, and try to be more cynical. Try to steal some time from the Nottingham players, of course. Talking to the ref, talking to the opponents, bringing all the things that we can in that sense. But I also don't think that, because it's also so obvious that we don't have anything to lose in this game, that we will try to make something out of, let's say, free kicks or corners or something like that, bringing in the power of Pontus Jansson in that sense. He was always a threat offensively for us on corners. And as I said, you just try to be as physical as we can. And if that doesn't work, we will try, and the focus word is try to implement something else. I mean, we
Some of the
won't
dark
back down,
arts.
but the dark arts or whatever, some voodoo stuff or whatever. But we will try to bring in and let's say, not to give anything to Nottingham that they, let's say, not try to give them anything that they cannot bring them themselves. So
Yeah.
not like losing the ball in the defensive end or trying to make like passes with outside of the foot for 40 meters. No, like minimal trash and minimal bad stuff going on. Just trying to keep us in the game for as long as possible and try to adapt.
Sounds like our game plan at the weekend against Liverpool. Really try and keep it tight. Try and frustrate him. Give the ball to Elliot Anderson as much as possible, because he's god at the moment. Like, unbelievable player. I don't know if
Yeah.
he'll play Thursday. I don't know if what Sean Dyche is going to do in terms of rotation, because we've got another big game on the Sunday against Brighton. So that's equally important. But yeah, so I might we might see some change. We might see some players get some minutes, but players that need to prove themselves to Sean Dyche. I mean, you joke about him being a defence. We've scored 8 goals in the last 3 Premier League games. We're hot property at the moment. What was your thoughts on Forest, and how much, if you get to watch the Premier League much, if you've seen any of us? Obviously, I know you mentioned the win at Liverpool at the weekend earlier.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is a Premier League infected country in many senses, because we had like the first regular football games that were sent or broadcasted on Swedish TV were Premier League games from the 80s. And the generation of our, like, say, dads and granddads and uncles and stuff like that were always infected by, especially Liverpool. Some were Arsenal, some were Chelsea, some even were Ipswich or like random teams like that. Of course, Nottingham playing against Malmo. But the Premier League level, or the level of football we see today is totally different. Of course, I don't need to explain that to you. But in that sense, given the information or the majority of, let's say, even podcasts and TV shows and everything that we have regarding Premier League, you know more about the teams that you actually think that you wanted to know. So I've been following the Premier League for a while inactively, but also I've seen, like, let's say, when Elanga played in Forest last season also, and with Isak in Newcastle, what he did there, and we also track our players in that sense. But I expect, in that sense, I mean, turning point or some kind of tactical revolution, or let's say anti-revolution in that sense, from Postecoglou to Dyche, from the ownership team before getting in Marinakis, the connections with Olympiacos and so on. I mean, it's so, like, or Igor Jesus, like, let's say, just scouting that player, bringing him in, finding him anywhere, and like, or the memes regarding that. So it's more like a non-football view of Nottingham or Premier League in general. But what I expect from the game is, like, I mean, also what I mentioned before, the tempo, the speed, the individual quality of the players. I mean, like, you're in kind of a bad situation within the league, but it's like self-brought upon with the inconsistency of the players, which is also similar to Malmö, given the head coach that I talked about before, the inconsistency of the starting 11s and so on. But I expect in this sense, or where we play Panathinaikos or where we play Dinamo, there's some kind of, let's say, closer competition. in terms of individual quality. I mean, we can have 3 or 4 players that can match them in one single game or over a season if they were playing in respective leagues. But from Nottingham, I expect nothing else but dominance in every single aspect. I mean, so much that has happened in Premier League, around Premier League, with the money, with the quality, with the scouting, with the analysis departments, the physios, everything. It's so much different. So, I mean, when I told you, when I said before, like everything around under 5-0 is decent. I don't expect 5-0, but at least 3 or 4-1. That would be like, let's say, unexpected result in that sense.
That's I think that the general feeling around Forest fans is that we should be winning this game, and if we want to progress into the Europa League later on, then it's a game we need to win. Especially we've got we've got Utrecht, Braga, and Ferencváros, who you've played previously, so left after this game, and they're all games that I think on paper we go where we should win, and we're starting to see the fruit of the Sean Dyche era. It's starting to slowly rebuild, and we're rebuilding that defensive stability. But we need like strikers and wingers to start scoring goals and get their confidence up. And it's kind of a game that we'd like maybe look at and go, well, yeah, it could be quite good. But I just wanted to take it back to the 2 times we've actually faced each other. Obviously, the 1979 final, and then in the 90s. Do Malmo fans ever go like, what if in that game in the 1979? Do you get like the older generation of supporters always reminiscing and saying what could have been, especially when the first £1 million man ends up scoring the winning goal?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's been from my childhood or being brought up within the environment of the stands and the active fan culture as well. I mean, given the history of the club and the thing that we started a podcast with the history and all the, like, let's say, heritage that we have both in Europe and in Sweden in that time. Of course, the older generation always said, if only Bosse Larsson, rest in peace, if he only played that game, that would be totally different, because we played Austria Wien, we played all the teams. I mean, the big snow game in Malmö Stadium before the final, and scoring goals in extra time and stuff like that. So, and given the fact that also that it seems from our perspective also that Nottingham cherishes that memory, of course, not only for winning the title, but also within the let's say the opponents, in that sense, some kind of respectful, mutual honoring of the team and the performances. Also the British inspiration that we had through our history with Roy Hodgson, with Bob Houghton, all of the, like, let's say, revolutionaries within Swedish football and what they did to Malmö and for Swedish football in that sense, but also this game and later in the 90s. That also I saw that they were invited to that game. They were some like memory travel or trip down memory lane to Munich with the whole team last season, with the players that are still alive, of course. And also, so that's like this one big moment. And we also try to, when we compete with our Swedish rivals as well, I mean, let's say Gothenburg, which is a traditional rival to us, they said they won the UEFA Cup, or now the Europa League, for 2 times against Hamburg one year, I think in the 80s as well. And they were like, yeah, but we at least won something. And we was like, yeah, but it's a B tournament. We were in the final of an A tournament and blah, blah, blah. So in the historical context, it's very important. It's one of our milestones within our both old and modern history as well. So we have only good things to say regarding that game. The players or the people from that time only have good things to say about the opponents as well. So it's kind of it's a special game in that sense also. I mean, given the situations that you have been in, the situation that we are in now, and also the history surrounding this specific game. Also, it's going to be huge. I saw that the teams traveling, or the 79 teams was invited by Nottingham, and they will be there. We will have, I think, around 1,000 people traveling from Malmö to Nottingham as well for like 3 days or 3-day bender, as they would say. Yeah. Just enjoying life and watching the game, and whatever happens. So in a historical context, very important game. And I mean, even if we lost the final, a pleasant and good memory that we are very, very proud of to be a part of.
It's quite nice to hear, actually, like gracious in defeat in a sense, and like nice to hear about those sort of players. And it's I think it's a nice touch from Forest inviting the 1979 team over and that sort of thing. I think it shows a lot of respect there. And it's just funny, like you mentioned a player that I've never ever heard of that he was missing. Like back in the day, you could never do this analysis and find it out. It's like just maybe a man gets on a plane and goes over and takes a look or whatever, or any video footage they could potentially look at and say, yeah, he looks tricky or whatever. I
Yeah,
don't know.
Busse.
So it's
Yeah,
interesting.
Busse was one of our biggest of all time. He was considered one of the most underrated players in Europe in that time as well, because he wherever you would put him in these days, wherever on the pitch, he would be the best player on that pitch. Even if we were put him in goal, he would be the best goalkeeper as well. But it was honestly, we thought, because we were growing up, it's like, yeah, there was an urban legend, people exaggerating and stuff. But he was actually so dominant. He was bought by Stuttgart in that time in the 60s, went there, came back after 2 years because he didn't want to be a part of that, very professional football in that sense. Came back to Malmo, did everything he did. And when the day he retired, he was at the new stadium that was built in 2009. He was the honorary kickoff legend to perform that kickoff. And after that, he didn't want to be a part of media or public life in that sense, and he was very reserved in that sense. And when he passed away, there was like so many good stories and memories and let's say empathic moments from that sense, from our history as well. I mean, given the value that he had, but also, I mean, Staffan Tapper, Anders Puskas Ljungberg, Christer Christensen, Janne Möller in goal. There was they created in that time some kind of Malmö mentality that we like to refer to today, that they didn't give, excuse the wording, they didn't give a shit about who was standing on the other end of the pitch, and they were like scaring people basically to death, or at least very much, playing in Sweden, playing in Europe. They didn't have respect to anyone, because they were like, okay, we're from Malmö, but we don't give a damn about who you are or who you're playing for or which team we're playing. So that's stuck with the team and with the club, and that's been developing further down the road as well. But as you said, also humble in defeat in that sense, Sir Bobby and everything after that.
No, that's great. I mean, kind of similar in terms of us, really, with fan bases. Obviously got to go to 79 and 80. Like, I mean, winning European Cups back to back is like ridiculous. Even now, when I think about it, it's just baffling, really, to me, especially for such a small place like Nottingham, like in context to the rest of England. We're a very working class sort of city, so I like that. And I know you said about the 1,000 people coming. I will send you some links for social media people you can follow, where you can post that on your guys' social media. You can find out where the best places to go and eat and drink are. So I'll send you that at some
Appreciate
point.
it. Thank you.
What's your score prediction for Thursday, Josip?
I will give two. I will give one from the heart and one from the mind. From the heart, from the heart, I would say like 2-0. But from the mind, I'll probably go for 4-1.
Okay.
And then I'm home. So I'll think it'd be bloody. I mean, I remember, no comparisons in general in this sense, but when we played Real Madrid away in Champions League, and I spoke to Anton Tinnerholm a couple of years, our left back at the time. I spoke to Anton Tinnerholm after that game, and he came up to Cristiano Ronaldo after 6-0, and he was like, okay, we understand. Please relax. And he was like, no. So that was some kind of experience also. But I don't expect 8-0. I mean, Forest is a powerhouse team, it's a Premier League team with everything like that. But 4-1, 5-1, as I said before, the whole takeaway from this is like, basically we have to keep the dignity and to keep, let's say, a solid performance that we can build on further on. We have these games left. We have the players have a double training camp in Spain in the beginning of January, and then in the end of the same month, and then the season starts with the cup games in February, and then we just keep rolling and rolling. So they haven't had like a proper vacation for 3 years now. This is the third consecutive year that we play all around the year, which has been clear that the club needs to investigate what we can do better. What things have been working good, what needs to be improved, because I mean, in terms of physical status, in terms of quality of the players, in terms of proneness to injuries, let's say new players coming in, how much do they need to adapt, how to bring in the young players, and of course the coaching question. There were some rumors that we would had a press conference today. There was no press conference, but the board has promised us fans to be done with the new recruitment later this week. We saw that there were some rumors about Mike Beale, and the collective feeling of he was connected to AIK and Malmö, and the collective feeling of all supporters was like, please keep this man away from our clubs because of the rumors.
Postecoglou.
Yeah, but we're
He might
also
have won
thinking about,
Europa League, but he lost 22 league games with Tottenham.
yeah, exactly. And that's about Beale. What, of course, he did this decent stuff in QPR. He did decent in Rangers, but all like the numbers and the stuff going on around him was terrible. And of course, Sunderland with the fake accounts answering himself and defending themselves against the critics. We were like, our two clubs do not need that right now. Please just go. So we'll see who will be the coach.
Forgot about that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Josip, thank you very much for joining us. Obviously, if anyone wants to check out Molde Uda, they can, especially the badge. That is probably the thing to look at, because I did look at 3 clips and obviously everything's in Swedish. So unless you're as fluent in Swedish, then go and check out the podcast, I guess. But I really appreciate your time, and we'll see you in the next one for another kind of preview from our own point of view, and then a review of the game from Thursday night, and we'll see you then. So come on, you Reds.